I just did a geometry notes video for Patreon last night,
Amazing.
and then I got some changes back from a client, so I got to adjust those today. But I do have a new video coming. It's gonna be pretty cool. I think.
Very cool. What was the geometry nodes one about?
It's just about normals, just accessing
Okay.
normals.
Right.
I mean, like very basic, simple stuff. I'm trying to get a read on my Patreon community. I probably have to like, because it keeps changing every month, so I have to kind of get a read on, what everyone really wants to learn, and then just kind of help them out with that.
Yeah. I guess like one of the reasons why I moved a lot of my stuff off of Patreon was because of the lack of interaction. It's very hard to know like who's actually interacting with stuff. So I was like, okay, well I'll just move it off. But I was actually quite surprised. I was expecting more people to drop off, but I mean, people did drop off, but not as way less than I expected. So, like, I wouldn't be too worried about that. I feel like there's like a certain amount of the audience on Patreon that's volatile, I guess. And if you change much, they'll drop off quickly. But I think there's like a really large chunk of the people there that are just so not bothered, like really about what you put on it. They just signed up because they liked you, and then I think it might sound bad saying it, but I think the effort of deactivating their subscription is probably more than they're worried about losing the money, if that makes sense.
At the point right now, I'm like that too. I will just leave stuff because it's just too much to go and cancel it. Sometimes, and then I realize how much it adds up, and I'm like, oh, okay. But other than that, I think there's a core group of people who really like us and just want to help us out, and that's really cool. I only have one tier. I think it's like I only have like a $2 tier. Like I haven't. I've been so busy with so many other things. I didn't want to create more tiers and break it out into a whole business right now because I don't have the bandwidth.
Hey, how's it going? Hopefully it'll be stable this time. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I'm not too choppy or stuttery
good.
or anything.
I
Can you hear us?
Okay.
I like your background. This is cool. It's like a cool studio going on. Lots of decoration. Not too like there's a good contemporary balance there with the shades. I like it.
Is that Voltron?
It is Voltron. It is Lego Voltron. I never had the set as a kid, and then when the Lego Ideas thing came out, and Arn was looking through things to buy me for a birthday present, she goes, "How about this?" I was like, "Yes, that's it. That's the one." It took about 3 days to build, and it's really satisfying because you build the lions, and it actually comes apart in the 5 lions, and then you can just put it together into the full Voltron as well. It's awesome.
Yeah, that's so awesome, man. I only ever had as a kid, I had Red Lion and Blue Lion. That was it. So when I put it together, it was like he was in a bad fight.
Oh my days!
Like, it's a flesh wound. Come back here, I'm with you. See, that's my English accent.
Yeah, there we go. Very interesting. That's pantomime, I think.
It's pantomime.
You recorded that, right, Curtis?
Oh yeah, I did.
It's my Monty Python.
Yeah. Oh.
At night.
Yeah. Oh, that's such a good film.
The Night in the Woods.
Yeah, I like the telescope behind you as well, Paul. Very cool.
Yeah.
Yes, that one's from a few years back. Yeah, it's a good f5 6-inch reflector. I got on a nice mount, and I got within reach. No, it's not. I got this ring which basically attaches my DSLR to the eyepiece, and so I can do some astrophotography. But I have it. And I've been meaning to do this for years, but I wanted to get a couple of motors because the telescope, the EQ mount, which is it's short for equatorial mount, has got 2 controls which basically shift the telescope according to the pole that you pointed at and the other one. Anyway, if you set up your telescope correctly, these motors will counteract the rotation of the Earth. And so if you've got a camera there, you can do a long exposure and track objects across the sky, so you get a really
Whoa.
nice, clear picture. And I haven't gotten to that level yet, but I can take really nice pictures of the moon and neighbors, and it's really. I rearranged my studio because I've got to do some product reviews, and it was looking a bit messy with stuff, and so I thought, oh look, I'll rearrange everything. So I've rearranged the entire computer setup. That's why I sort of had to test everything. The Wi-Fi is being reconnected, so it's sometimes jumpy. But needed to have it looking good for that stuff.
Nice, good, very professional.
Very professional watching neighbors.
Yeah, watching
this isn't professional.
Oh, that's just a different level of professional. Like,
is this what's the background for your face reveal going to be, Kev?
I have no idea. I don't even know if I'm going to do a
should
face
be,
reveal.
come
I was
on.
joking. I was joking about that. I totally think I'm going Slipknot. But like, I mean, if people want to know who I am, they could go to BlenderNest and just see this. Like, it's not a big deal. It's just like it's an added thing to my videos. And when I watch people's videos, I just tend to like, I don't know if I'm watching something for just like learning software, I'm kind of like, okay, that's cool that your face is in there, but like, you're covering up a menu item that I may want to look at. Like, so I'm like, I don't know. So for me, it's just like I don't know. I look like Daniel grew his. He's like at like 1 million subs now, and I don't think he's ever shown his face on video ever. Except in that Mr. Beast, except in the Beast video.
He made a second channel, didn't he? I think. And
Blender Cult.
Cult, that was it. And he showed his face on there. That was pretty funny. But I started showing.
How many subs did he get that?
Oh, I need to check that.
On I think within 11K when I saw last time.
All right.
11,000 subscribers.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was with one video.
I love his videos, and he's just pretty funny anyway. Even on that Blender Cult one,
he's entertaining.
Yeah, he's very entertaining. He just has that right type of comedy. But
yeah,
I started putting my face in the videos again for a couple of reasons. One is because I feel like people are more likely to watch the following videos if they've already seen my face on them, and I get that feeling because when I've had my faces in them, there's been like better interaction in the comments and stuff, and even when I watch videos back, I noticed that I really hate listening to the ones where my face isn't there, because for some reason even if they're improvised, it's just more kind of monotonous. But when I've got the camera on, I notice that I'm more funny, and people point it out in the comments. So I'm like, okay, let's keep the camera on then.
It was one of those tips that people would give you when starting on YouTube and everything like that. It's like, you'll raise your viewership by X% if you show your face. And I'm like, oh, look, we can try this, because it sort of gives people a point of connection, sort of a human element to it. And I get the logic, but like I sometimes think that content does tend to trump any of those sorts of bits of advice. First, have good content, and then follow all the tips. I kind of got a bit lazy, and the latest ones I just went, oh, look, I just can't be bothered to record some pieces to camera. I'm looking really shabby, and I'd have to have a shave and a haircut and just like put on a nice shirt just to do the piece to camera. And I'm like, nah, screw that.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna I'm just gonna edit my footage.
Yeah, you really don't need to. Because I was like, when I was recording my face, I was like, oh, should I shave? Nah, I can't be bothered. Like, if I take one step away from the computer now, I'm not going to get anything done. So let's just do it right now.
Yeah. I'm lucky that I couldn't grow a full beard till I was in my 30s, but now it like just keeps coming in, and I'm like, every day it's like I hate
But
it.
I do really want to see how your beard would look. Yeah, I didn't, not even once.
I think I suffer from like Keanu syndrome, where like I can't grow a full beard. It just gets really hobo-ish, and
right.
And so it's kind of patchy. But I tend to look younger with the beard on, and when I shave it, did you see the latest Bill and Ted movie, or even just posters for it?
Yeah, I haven't seen the movie yet, but I really want to because I love the original.
How old does Keanu Reeves look once he's shaved? It's like he takes the beard off and suddenly he puts on 10, 15 years. You know,
Yeah.
in John Wick, he looks young as, and the guy's he's in his 50s now or something like that.
He's
He's
in
one of
his-
those.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He's like
man,
mid-50s. Easy mid-50s.
looks good for his 50s, but like as soon as he shaves, it's like okay, yeah. And I'm sort of like that because all of a sudden I just noticed the flab and the wrinkles, and so just like
Yeah.
a little bit of fluff, and I can define my face, and yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, some
For the first time when I
It
saw
is
you,
true.
I didn't think you were in your 40s. Okay, I was thinking somewhere around 32, 33-ish. Okay.
some people, I guess, really need it. Like it just really works, and I think especially if I don't want to make fun of anyone, but for people with like really weak chins, like facial hair can really make a massive difference. Oh man.
Whoever is editing this, probably me, just cut out me laughing at people with weak chins.
I watch people that make fun of themselves. I don't know if anyone watches Rhett and Link, like Good Mythical Morning. Yeah,
Yeah, I
so
do.
Rhett makes a point about it because like every now and again they'll make fun of him by bringing up a picture of him without his facial hair, and it's just like, oh, he hates it so much.
I care every now and then, man. I joke about it, but I was like, whatever, man. I'm gonna age. When I was doing martial arts with people in their, they were in their like 50s and 60s, and they were just still like beating on people, and it was just amazing. Like as long as your body still keeps up, it doesn't really matter. Your face is gonna sag, it's gonna gray, it's gonna happen. You can't stop it. But then there's plastic surgery if you really want to go that route. So,
Yeah.
and there's no shortage of that in my town.
Oh hell yeah!
Yeah. I wonder what we're going to label this segment. Is it like the Vanity Cast or something?
Oh yeah,
And
the Vanity Cast.
You see, I only noticed after sort of filming my face that I actually have a crooked nose, and I thought, oh, this kind of gives me some street cred because it looks like I've been in a couple of bar fights. I've never thrown a punch or received a punch in my life, and I
Really?
keep thinking I should.
Wow.
Yeah, I know.
You're not missing out.
No, but I just keep thinking, rather than go and get like my nose corrected or anything, like I should just go and up to some big guy in a bar and just go, excuse me, are you left or right-handed? Because I'll just like figure out which way he'll punch me, and I'll just go right, your mum, and then just bang, and he can just like break my nose back into place, and it'd just be like a really quick way of fixing the problem.
My nose points off to one direction as well, like off that way. And we're not sure exactly whether it was always like that or whether it started happening at some point. But I do remember getting hit really hard in the face with a ball, like in school, and I blacked out very briefly. And for some reason, I point that as like the picture in my head. I don't think my nose broke, but it did hurt a lot. So we'll see. I've had another member of my family that actually had their nose kind of realigned because they were having breathing issues, and they said, "Oh my god, that's terrifying," because like there's this really kind of complex recovery period for it, where like I mean, it's
your eyes like it's your whole face just blows up.
Yeah, it's something about like how they remove it and like kind of reattach in like a bit of a weird way, and it takes time, and so it's a really big mental investment apparently.
Right.
Yeah,
fine. I'm happy with
I'm
my
just gonna
face.
go.
I don't want to touch anything.
Yeah, I'll join
You
you.
got nothing to complain about there, Sharon.
Paul, I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
We'll meet up one day, and then we'll go bar hopping, and then we'll make it a challenge to get someone to punch us.
I was in a fraternity in college, and they when the person turns 21, you bring them to the bar, you line up the shots, and they got like 21 shots and 2 beers. I think at the time I probably weighed like 140, and oh my god, it was like I think I ended up I think getting so drunk that I think I went into the men's bathroom because I had to relieve myself, and I think there was like someone in the stall already, and I pulled him out, and then I think he almost killed me, and I think one of my other fraternity brothers was there. He basically saved my life and like got me out of the bar, and with my ex-girlfriend, and we all left, and I don't remember the story because I was so drunk,
no.
but it's not glorious.
No.
I was I just turned 21. I was just completely out of my
able to drink.
Out of my league. Just able to drink here, and after 21 shots, to somebody who I think at the time I weighed like 140 pounds, was like, what Yeah, I'm not ready for this.
Yeah, especially since you don't really know your limits as well at that point.
Oh,
If you only just started.
I mean, I had been drinking at parties, but I didn't. I mean, it was just beer. I didn't know my limits with hard alcohol or anything. I was just like, I was grossly unprepared for that. And yeah, you know, you get drunk and you don't even know what you're doing, and you know, people tell you the story later, and you're like, oh boy,
Yeah.
oh boy.
So I had a friend that went to the Philippines, kind of almost spontaneously with a group of friends, and they didn't really know anything about the Philippines. And I was like, okay, be careful. But apparently he got like really kind of drunk, like trying to choose the right vocabulary, and there was some of his friends that were having an argument or something, and he was getting really riled up about it, so he punched a wall for some reason like a genius, and he completely broke like his hand and his wrist and that, so he had to go and get like some surgery done like in the Philippines. So they ended up putting like all these splints in and everything. And I was like, dude, like you just spontaneously went to the Philippines, punched a wall, and then you have to deal with all their kind of medical stuff. Apparently they were really good, like really efficient.
Oh yeah,
but
they have good doctors there.
But yeah, I was like in terms of like taking risks and stuff, oh man, just screw your head on when you're traveling.
Yeah, definitely when you're traveling, man. We kept a limit when we were traveling. The craziest one was in Barcelona, and we just totally kept our limits because going out on there's a section of that city called the Gothic Barrio, El Barrio Gotique, and there's one strip called La Rambla, and at night, at least 20 years ago, that was turning into like I mean, after dark, everyone closes up and the gangs came out, and it was rough.
Yeah, you told us before once.
It was rough, and we kept our wits about us. We didn't drink too much. I mean, we drank enough to get a little buzz going, have some fun, but nothing like we didn't go overboard. I mean, we were watching people come back into the hostel with their faces just messed up and all their money gone, and I mean, it was just I watched people get mugged, and it was oh man,
oof. Yeah, I think
it was rough. It was rough.
I think I saw something about Barcelona telling people to maybe not telling people. Like tourists to go away. No, that was Amsterdam actually. But Barcelona was saying something about they're having an issue with housing now, kind of because so many people are buying up like I guess holiday homes or like renting, kind of to tourists and stuff. So there's a bit of a housing issue. It must be really weird for towns that have like built up such like tourist economies now. Because I guess the local population isn't getting smaller, it's getting bigger. And so many businesses are relying on tourist economies that aren't really functional right now. That must be very weird.
Yeah, especially a city like Barcelona. There's so much to see there. It's so gorgeous.
It's a massive cruise port as well, Barcelona.
It is. Yeah, it is. There's the whole port. There's Port Olympic. There's a whole it is. You're right. And you can go to the Balearic Islands from there too and do the loop. And I mean, you can go out into the Mediterranean and go anywhere from there, but it's we did Ibiza when we were there too. It was unbelievable. That was way more chill than Barcelona. I didn't have any time in Ibiza that I felt like my life was in danger or anything. Whereas in Barcelona at night, we were hyper vigilant.
I want to go to Ibiza. Sorry, that's the the British way.
I know everybody was saying Ibiza.
Yeah.
The BBC Radio 1 takes up residence in San Antonio every year. Which is the opposite city from Ibiza.
Right. Okay.
San Antonio's beautiful, beautiful city. It's gorgeous.
I kind of want to take a look because it's like the stereotypical place where like the British teens or like young adults or whatever go, and I've never been, and I just want to like see it.
It's so much fun. It's such an amazing island. It's so much fun.
Did anyone else here play like the Test Drive Unlimited games?
No.
Oh, I was the only one. Damn it, they were so good. But they had a second one. But okay, so Test Drive Unlimited on Xbox 360 had like a 1-to-1 scale recreation of Oahu in Hawaii. And you could drive all the way around it. It was really cool. Like you could do races, you could do other types of jobs, you can buy up housing and like store your cars and stuff, and it was really fun.
Oh, cool. But
the second one had Oahu and Ibiza. So like I spent a long time driving around there. The graphics were really good for the time. It was a kind of game that just made you feel really chill.
How long ago did this game came out? Because I remember seeing some article about a 1-to-1 recreation of a racing game. It's a racing game, right?
Yes. Well, yeah, technically,
Right.
Test Drive Unlimited was racing, but you could also do other jobs like, and this is one thing I really liked about it. It was like, oh, you might find someone that really needed this car delivered for like a courier thing. So you could drive these really expensive cars for a brief amount of time and get paid for it. And it was like, okay, so it's not just racing, it's like all these other things. You don't have to race if you don't want to. I like that. But then there's also, in terms of like large scale things, there's also the crew games, which I think technically might use a similar engine, but they're based in America. So they have this not really to scale version of the USA, which you can drive around, which is really cool because they've got like the landmarks.
There's one more, I think. Like, I think it's GTA 5. There was this place where it was 1-on-1 scale, and some person who plays the game went to this actual place, and then he was able to spot every single shop. I was like, I don't know. Like, I saw this meme. I was like, "Is it real?" And people said, "Yeah, it is real."
Yeah, GTA is interesting because I think some areas are quite to scale, but the rest of it's really off proportion. And you got like the kind of Venice Beach area in GTA where you walk down, it's got like all the kind of shops at the front, which is where the that pier you went to, Kev. What's it called again?
Yeah, the Pacific Pier.
Yeah, they've got that as well.
Yeah.
So they've even got like the highway and then like the thing going, the walking bridge going over it and stuff like that.
Oh, cool.
So
that's really interesting. Man. That blew my mind actually. Like, if you know the game, you can actually live in the place. It's like, what?
Yeah.
Well,
yeah,
that's awesome.
It's been really fun playing Watch Dogs Legion recently because that's London, and like it's so weird because I don't need the map or anything. I can just drive around, but it's strange when you know, okay, there's a road coming up here, and then you go there, and it's not there. Like everything you're in like Trafalgar Square, and it's all to scale, and then you'll go down a road, and it looks almost identical, and then there's just like a road missing, and you're like, oh, this is really weird because it's like you're kind of living in some alternate reality now. Like your head is like you're following your mental map, and then the game kind of disrupts it, and it's really off-putting, but it's still fun to like engage with. So
it is interesting games that have done that. Like I remember Assassin's Creed 2, going back several years, had a pretty good representation of Florence, and I'd been to Florence on a couple occasions. And I sort of had vague memories of the geography, but then playing the game, it was like, I kind of went, stuff the missions. I just want to walk around. I just want to go up to the Duomo and I want to and it was a pretty good one. And I think there were some articles on what was accurate, what wasn't. And, when it comes to games, unless the reason for making it 1-to-1 is because, hey, look how faithfully we represented the real thing if that's the goal, great. But usually the goal is we want to give people, it's level building. It's we need to give people a level that is easy to navigate or easy to figure out the rules for, so that then they can navigate and have fun in it. So Fallout 4 is a classic example where they kind of took the idea of Boston and some of the places around Massachusetts and put it in the game. And I remember visiting there with another friend who's a big fan of Fallout, and is going, oh, recognize that building? I'm like, oh yeah, that's the thing that you do that mission in, and blah blah blah. And that's kind of fun. And I think there's even some Boston tours where they take you around the highlights. It's like a Fallout tour, and they
that's
just go,
fun.
okay, yeah.
It's like, here's Paul Revere's house. This happened, and here's where this happened in the video game. Yeah, that's cool. It's like the Freedom Fallout tour.
I like how like these things are like educational for people that have never been there already, but also for people that have been there. Again, with Watch Dogs, there was an example. I remember taking they've got photo mode in the game, and I love it when games add photo modes because you can just. I mean, it's really bad. It's really bad for your gameplay experience because you'll stop every 5 seconds and take a picture of something. But I found like these cool kind of like lion heads along like the border of the Thames. And I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. I didn't know that was a thing. But I actually went walking around kind of the waterfront where the London Eye is the other day. I went out and like kind of took someone for a walk around there. And I thought, wait, are those lion heads real? So like I went to where they were, and then like I kind of poked my head over the side, and there they were. And I was like, oh, that's cool. So you notice it in the game, and that's there. And I think there's like some poem or some little... I don't know what it is, but like just a phrase about those lion heads talking about like when they start drinking the Thames, then London has flooded and stuff like that. So it's like a cool little thing. But
Yeah.
When the ravens exit the tower,
oh yeah,
Western civilization falls.
oh yes.
I was just saying, like, even we had something like this in India, like, if this particular statue in this temple, if the water reaches her nose, the whole world is dead.
Oh
It didn't
right.
happen, but yeah, but still.
Hmm.
Man, we
Just
should
as well.
put a webcam on that thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I can, when I've just got to force myself to take some downtime, I finally got my PC all up and running and everything, which was great, full upgrade. And so I decided, what the hell, I'll finally jump into Cyberpunk 2077. And I've heard
Oh
all the
yeah.
reviews and stuff like that. But
Hmm.
I like sleeper games. I like games that sort of. I mean, I actually enjoyed Mass Effect Andromeda for what it was, and when I heard the history behind it,
I
I
loved
thought,
it. Yeah.
yeah, I was like, wow, really? And all the reports. Sorry about the digression in the digression.
Okay, is there any
All the
spoilers?
reports of a Mass Effect Andromeda. No, spoiler free, right? When I heard all the reviews about the production hell it went through and what they left out of the game, but how you can sort of see bits of the unfinished game in the game. After I'd played through, I thought, you know what? I didn't get that. I felt it was a solid game experience. It had a beginning, middle, and end. It had characters. It had missions, and it didn't feel as disjointed as the articles were making out the background to be. And Cyberpunk, yeah, I see that it had its problems, and people like in the end just felt like it could have been a better game or something like that. But so I've downloaded it on PC, and I've spent so much time just fiddling around with the settings. Like I'll be playing and I'll be like, oh, I wonder what it looks like if I crank everything up, see how much my computer can handle. And it runs fine. And then I'll just like start to tweak settings to see what the difference is and just like go back into gameplay. And you can do this on the fly with it. I thought this is amazing. It's like you can control how, say, thick the background crowd is. If you want to crank it right up, you can have hundreds of people walking around if your computer can handle it. But if your computer can't, you can like scale that right back so they just have like a minimum crowd setting, as it were. And it's the same with texturing and lighting and all that sort of stuff. And then I started begin to notice things. And you're right, Curtis, like Cyberpunk was the experience that look, I'm about 5 minutes into the game, all right, so and like every time I turn it on, I get a little bit more addicted to it, which is dangerous because I've got a big workload right now.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, I just want to, as characters are talking to me while they're driving me around, I just want to look out the window at all the buildings and what's going on outside because it's so detailed. It's just like there's a world out there. And yeah, like I totally want to do that photo mode thing, and yeah, but I have to stop myself, just like you.
Oh man, yeah. On my website, I've got the my game photography page. There's like a link in the footer, and I've got some Cyberpunk pictures on there, because it is really a really good looking game. Like if you put aside all the bugs and stuff, there are some areas.
Trend, right?
Yeah, there was like some areas I was just like walking around. I was like, oh, okay, let me go up, these stairs, and oh, okay, there's some like overpass walkway thing. That's pretty cool. Like I bet like not many players have gone up here. You turn a corner, oh, it goes on forever, and there's people walking in their stores, and you look out to the side, and there's like a whole shanty town out there, and you're like,
yeah,
whoa, how many polys are on the screen right now? It's like crazy.
Wow.
So you find like a tiny little walkway kind of nestled like under a highway somewhere, and you walk all the way down, and then you're in this kind of shanty area, and then you're walking around, and it's got all these back alleys, and you're like, holy damn, like I bet most of the game never even takes you like around here.
I know.
So I was
as I'm doing missions, I just want to walk down a different hallway because like old school gaming experience is like, oh, maybe there's something over here that if you get early in the game, it'll help you out later on. I'm just like I've just been conditioned to that. Fallout 4 had one in the original vault that you start out in, and all sorts of games have those little secret little Easter egg things. But this one is just so huge.
Since you mentioned Fallout, and I'm a massive Fallout fan, I've got my Pip-Boy up there, and I've got like a kind of power armor statue, just a little one. I love Fallout 4. To be honest, I think it's my favorite one in terms of gameplay. That's a little bit of a controversial take. Hey, nice. Let me Hey. All right.
Oh,
So
Oh, nice.
So yeah, that's from the Fallout 3 package. So Fallout 4 is my favorite. New Vegas is a lot of other people's favorites, and I think it's pretty good for like story, but I just couldn't stick with the gameplay that much. But anyway, I think they missed one opportunity with Fallout 4. It's a lesson that I think they just forgot with Fallout 3. Never start your character in a corner of an open world map. And the reason for that is because when players play the game again, they have an opportunity to go in a different direction. It sounds like a really small thing, but with Fallout 4, it's a problem. Because when you play these massive open world games, again, you don't want to experience the same thing over and over again because you get bored and you give it up easily. And that's one thing Fallout 3 did really well, is you started smack bang in the middle of the map when you came out of the vault. And you're up on an elevated area, so you can look around, see like key areas of the world and go, I'm going to explore that. So you can just walk off and begin your journey. And then the next time you can look at a different direction and go, I'm going to go down there instead. But with Fallout 4, you had to come out of the same area, the same time, walk through the same town, talk to the same person, go through the same town after that, and keep on doing that. So I think that was just one missed opportunity with the game. But other than that,
cool.
I love it.
All right.
So
See, I didn't notice that, but now that I come to sort of think about it, you're right. I remember my first experience playing through Fallout 4 because, like, some game experiences, they really stick with you, and Fallout 4 was no different. Mass Effect, yes. Oh my gosh, Fallout 4 was like, I loved the desolation. The preamble was great. You started off in this faux 1950s modernist style, and then everything goes to crap. And then you exit the vault, and the world is so different. And before you even meet a person, there's a death claw. And what I liked about that game mechanic was that it was it really immersed me into the danger of the world.
yeah.
Oh, cool.
All of a sudden, it's like, holy crap, everything in this is deadly serious. And by just having that really high level beast just come at you. And you've just got like, a pea shooter. And it's like, how am I going to take this guy on? And so like you're running and you're just trying to get away from this thing. And that's like right in the beginning. And then you meet people. I kind of liked having that little bit of breathing space. I hadn't felt that in a game before. It was very rare. When you meet, what's the dog called? Dog meat or?
Oh yeah, dog meat, I think. At the Red Rocket gas station.
Spoiling.
Oh, sorry. No, this is early on in the game. So.
It's fine.
Sharon, this is literally in like the promotional trailers and stuff.
And it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are we segueing to Mass Effect or Blender?
We should probably go into Blender.
I'm going to ask a question about Blender.
Could
Just
talk
got everything
forever
this
about Mass
out.
Effect.
I'm going to ask a question. So, asset browser. Now, I hadn't been keeping track of it. I was very interested in having one back in like 2018, 19. And I heard, little rumblings that they were going to be making one. So I'm like, you know what? How's it going? Because I've seen like little pictures of people using the asset browser. And then I've done a little bit of research because I haven't heard anything about it. And then I'm like, wait, people were making videos about it back in November? Like last year? Like, wait, when was it a thing? And then these videos said it was going to come out in the 2.92 version, but it's not there. And then people on like other websites were like, why isn't it in 2.92? I don't know, they pushed it back to 2.93. So then I looked at other videos that said, oh, it's coming in 2.93, but it's not in 2.93. So what happened? Did they push it back to 3.0? Yes, it's in 3.0 now. So I've been trying to catch up on like all this development because I want to do a video about it. But it's weird because I'm kind of like Indiana Jones kind of doing archaeology on like kind of all these different pieces of history for the asset browser that should have existed but doesn't. But I mean, it's in 3.0 now, but
they're keeping it there in 3?
I hope so. Otherwise, if I do a video about it, I'm going to have to say, don't be surprised if it gets pushed back because it's been pushed back 2 versions. From what I can see,
I've noticed that with alpha releases, it's like they'll put in a feature that they've been working on, and then they'll just think, you know what, this is not going to play nice with everything else, so we've got to cut it for this release. Totally understand that.
Yeah, it's crazy trying to keep up with all this because there's so many different releases. And I was using Cycles X, Cycles 10, whatever we're calling it. And I'm realizing like I don't think like I'm trying because I write out passes and I write out AOVs with like denoising data, and I can't see the denoising data working in Cycles 10, and maybe it's just my scene, but I'm not seeing any like. It's just so bizarre. I'm like, and like little things that you try to use for different things, and you got to jump to like different versions because this worked in this version, but it doesn't work in this version, so I have to take my scene back in that version to do this pass, and it's like,
Oh, hi,
so
Michael.
that's the acid
Oh
problem.
my god,
Hey,
this is
Michael.
different.
It is
That's
different.
weird.
So
Yeah.
I'm in the bedroom and I've got a wide angle camera, so the green screen can't possibly fit in frame.
Oh, this would actually look pretty interesting if we all had kind of spherical bounds.
Yeah, I'll try that.
I thought it was a bit Teletubbies when I first looked at it. I was like, uh-oh.
Oh yeah, no.
Oh,
if,
no.
if you make the whole thing your face, you can be the sun while we
Yeah.
we talk.
Oh, wow.
Totally.
We've been going for like 40 minutes and we've only just started talking about Blender.
Nice.
Yes.
Nice.
Oh,
Yeah.
40 minutes already.
We were talking
Nice.
about video games. I mean, this is all like it's all in the same genre of stuff.
Yeah.
Blender, video games,
Yeah.
stories, storytelling. It's entertainment.
Oh, look, I
It all
think
fits
Fallout
together.
4's mechanic of asset building is really what got me interested into modular assets. And so now that we've got
cool.
geonodes, there's a segue.
Yes.
It sort of, it just comes full circle. It's like, here's another way that we can use modular assets to build stuff. It's really good.
Yes.
Me too. Like, I'm trying to work on this scene with geonodes, like trying to build a world. And the first thing I want to do is like some sort of building generator. I started doing something like sci-fi building generator a long time ago, but then I stopped because I started making the vector math series. But I should get going with
Yeah.
the whole geometry nodes again.
Shameless plug, by the time this video goes live, I should have all 4 parts of my current series on building generators out. It's one of those situations where there's no best way of doing it. It's like, if it works, if the math checks out, do it that way. It's all a matter of what do you want to plug into your generator to get functioning. And as far as basics go, the mesh primitives all come in handy for different things. I've found that, the grid works best for one thing, line works best for another, things like that. And it was interesting because when geonodes first came out, everyone was doing all these really great random nature scenes that you'd usually use the particle generator for. And I really loved that. And I like to take the baby steps. I'm like, okay, well, could I get the logic of this? How do you get 2 of an instance so that then I can get 10 of an instance? Then can you do something to the instance of an instance? And so like I couldn't get my head around that because the whole idea of a building generator is it's not random. It's grid-like and organized. And your controls are about dimensions, width, height, depth, and then swapping out assets like you would in Unreal Engine or something like that. But to get that kind of functionality, it's a bit of messy math in the thing that you've got to figure out what math can connect to what assets and what math you can reuse without duplicating too much of the node tree and get it too heavy. So you've got to really prune down that node tree as far down as you can. But when you do that, you've got lines everywhere. It's a real mess. Workload permitting, I'm hoping to do a 5th part where it's, okay, now here is how you can plug in assets that you've downloaded off the net and use the same generator, but with different assets. It may need some revising and like another pass at looking at it all before I do that, because it is, when you build a generator, it tends to be specific to the stuff that you're using, and it's great that it's a modifier, but to make it really expandable, you need to not only be able to add that modifier to another object or instance in your scene. So you could say block out a streetscape, right, with just cubes, and then just add your building generator to each cube, and then just tweak all the settings on each of the building generator instances. Great. But if you want to quickly swap out, okay, I want this type of ground floor for this building and that one, but I don't want to rejig and redo a building generator, I think I like that idea as well.
One of the most challenging things with that is when you've got, let's say you've got 2 meter wide pieces by 4 meter tall, and then suddenly you swap it out and you want an asset pack, and for some reason it's like 1.5 meter wide or 3 meter wide pieces. Suddenly you have to rewrite a lot of your connections and maths that's in there, because I don't think at the moment there's no way of auto detecting a width unless you're using bounding box, and that's assuming nothing's going outside of that usual sort of modular volume that you're repeating yourself all the time.
Yeah, does Geometry Nodes? I was gonna ask, does Geometry Nodes have a bounding box feature in there? Because Houdini does, and
there's
and
bounding
it
box
helps. There is a bounding box. Okay, I haven't seen it yet.
This is interesting because I want to speak to those of you and others that aren't here that have been doing a lot of Geometry Node stuff, because I've been holding back from learning it. Well, I did a little bit of learning, but the way I was learning it was every step I take in Geometry Nodes, I'm going to make sure I learn the Python equivalent of making that happen. So I was building up a module for making it simple to interact with Geometry Node. So it just takes one line to make an object, attach a Geometry Node tree to it, and add nodes to it and stuff like that. So it's very easy to build add-ons to simplify any common practices with it. So I want to ask people, like, if there are any common workflow things that they are doing with Geometry Nodes that could be automated. So that would be handy. For things like when I've done the generators, like so the city scatter tool, proximity, and what's up, Sharon?
Kitty, it's really nice. It's like kitty.
I was going to say skitty satter. You know, like when your brain flips the first syllables around. Yeah. For the for the kitty cat tool, proximity detection and collision was a tricky thing to do, because like with Python it's difficult to do raycasting in Blender. So like if you take a point around an object and kind of fire rays out around it, detecting whether those rays collide with another object was very difficult. However, I've been told by Ben, BBBN19, that they now have a raycasting node in Geometry Nodes. And he was showing me how you could visualize that. So rays coming off and bouncing off other objects. So I was like, oh my god, that's what I need to do like really complex scattering. And immediately, like if you had that with Python, just instantly you have like a tool where you can make objects fall on the ground like in the exact right place. You know how like I think a Houdini demo was showing how you could like procedurally scatter things. Done. Few lines of code. Python. Easy. As soon as you have raycasting, you can do that. So I really need to look at that, because I don't know whether they've added anything to help do that with Python as well, but if not, then I could probably just make an empty object, then use Geometry Nodes tools to then get data in the scene and just have that as a temporary object. So I'm kind of thinking of these things of how to use it for like Biogen and whatever in the future. But if anyone plays with Geometry Nodes and they think, oh, this is a few steps that could be automated, then let me know. Thank you.
In the comments.
Yeah.
It's been such a crux for me, because it's like, do I with the freelance and everything I'm doing and the day jobs, like, do I spend time learning Geometry Nodes or just learn more Houdini? I'm like, what do I do?
I really want to try out world building. That's one of something which I always wanted to do, and which in this case, scattering is one of the huge thing that Geometry Nodes can do. And then I was following all the, for example, set building of Sprite Fright on Blender Studio. They've been doing live streams, and they said like they're going to, like, at least for all the grass and everything, they're just going to stop using particle systems forever. They'll be only using Geometry Nodes from now on for everything, which is really nice. So for example, if they're going to build a world, it's going to be all Geometry Nodes. And I also want to like try adapting to that thing. For doing that, I have to model again, which I'm really not happy about.
Modeling is zen, but it's the part of things I'm starting to actually texturing. I'm hating. I think if anything right now is like laying out UVs, I hate that.
Yep.
Yeah, that's why
procedural shading is fun. I like procedural shading. That's fun. Laying out UVs for me has just become like a nightmare. I'm just like, this is the part I hate.
How would they generate UVs for Geometry Nodes? Like sometimes you need very complex UVs. Like, I know. Especially like when modeling comes, using Geometry Nodes, like proper extruding and everything. How are they going to do UVs for that? For example, then people will start making robot generators and everything, right?
one of the big challenges with UVs. It's fine if you're just doing a model for yourself, and you can usually just smart UV unwrap and plonk it on and fix like those tiny areas. But if you're in a team and you're trying to put UVs together, and perhaps an artist is going to handle this model afterwards, they're going to kill you for smart UV unwrapping the thing.
Oh, they will.
Or
Yeah.
simple things like texture density, which might not matter on just a model that you're making to show off, or even just a single hero asset to put into a game. Who cares what it's like? It's a hero asset. You know, you're going to up the resolution and everything else. But if you're making a set of assets and you're trying to put them all together afterwards, and then you look at them just with like a UV grid on them, and you see that some of them have got super dense resolution and some of them are really blurry in comparison, suddenly they don't fit together, even if style wise they would do. But the textures is blah. It's a horrible thing to have to go through. It seems intuitive. Oh, you just unwrap it, you know, just like you would a present, or the great one is the Santa Claus of chocolate, where they unwrap it and then lay that flat, and you can see, oh, that's like unwrapping. But
Yeah.
it's really not straightforward for a computer to do, which is why perhaps machine learning can help us with this.
Yes,
see.
we should just task all our AI to solve unwrapping issues.
Yeah, I don't have a solution, but to be honest, I think we need to get rid of UVs. I think there needs to be some kind of alternative. There's just something not like fundamentally limiting about having a cutoff and like, you know, trying to project a 2D around a 3D object. I think for a 3D object there should be a 3D surface solution rather than a 2D surface solution, if you know what I mean. I have no idea what that would be. I have no idea.
I think you sort of run into the lowest. Hi, by the way, back. You sort of run into the lowest common denominator problem. Like it's been there forever. Anyone who's ever done any sort of audio mixing or whatever. I had a boss once who fancies himself a bit of a musician, had a band and all that. He would take a recording, and to really test it out, he'd play it over his crappy AM stereo in his car.
Yep,
to see if it sounded good. If it sounds good there, it's going to sound good anywhere. And so he was doing the mix for the person who got the hand-me-down second-hand bomb for a couple $100 and wanted to rock out to music. That's what he recorded to. And I think the more we sort of move away from UVs, the more UV is going to be like the AM radio standard, where devices are going to need that are the lowest common denominator are going to need some way of seeing your beautifully procedurally textured object in a way that they can handle, and they may not be able to handle whatever 3D procedural system will work. I mean, I'm pretty sure games will get there at some point. You know, I think we'll have procedurally colored environments and textured characters before too long. We've got the environments that are procedurally textured. That's great.
Once you get a voxel to, I'm going to use it, Retina scale on whatever monitor you're using, that's it. Kind of in the way that Unreal Engine 5 is now doing their geometry scaling, where they take it down to the per pixel level. I mean, it's amazing. Perhaps they can do it with textures as well.
Yeah, I was gonna say, just let Epic do it. They've got the money. They'll invest.
It seems already done it, just not let us know yet.
Yeah, they're like, oh, let's just play this one out slowly. We'll drop it in a couple of years.
Honestly, Unreal Engine had a huge boost. Like, I really loved it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes.
I'm going to
version 5 is pretty crazy.
I never thought I would actually I never thought I would get into games, you know, like making games and world building in actual game engine. But then after watching Unreal, and I think I'm going to do it. Like, I don't want to build a full game, but then I really want to know the software so that anything I do here should also work there.
Yeah.
It's the only piece of software that's been interesting enough for me to actually make a video about something that isn't Blender, you know, for such a long time. I haven't done anything about Houdini or anything else. I mean, it's interesting, but it hasn't been interesting enough for me. But Unreal 5 was. And I don't know, I guess also I feel like a little bit shameful because, like I've said many a times, like my channel was almost a Unity channel, and like they have all of that experience packed in there. I can jump back into Unity and make a game, you know, in a few months. I can do that. but it's just a bad time investment. But I don't know how to do that with Unreal yet, so I need to invest time in transferring that knowledge over. It's even simple things like the editor, the engine's fine, completely fine. They've got some kind of component system, I think, similar for scripting, maybe. I haven't really tried anything other than the blueprints at the moment, but the core thing about transferring knowledge between game engines for me is how do you get scripts, and visual scripts as well, to communicate with each other. And I just haven't looked that up yet, because once you know that kind of opens everything else up. Same thing with learning Godot. I was like, that's the first thing I looked at. Put all the tutorials away, put all that documentation away. How do you get these two components to interact with each other and send data? And can they be sent in the same format? That's once you know that, that's like the gateway to everything else.
It's like that with learning different 3D software too.
Yeah, most
You know,
softwares use very, very similar paradigms. As long as you're in, if it's a painting application, you just want to know where your brushes are, where your color palette is. That's probably it, actually. And in 3D, how do you move around your model? What's when you go between packages, it's often just terminology more than anything else. So it might not be called extrude in one program. It might be called something else. Like, I think in SketchUp it was called push pull or something.
Yeah, something like that.
Lines.
I got a comment. I got a comment from someone that was like, "How did you learn Unreal Engine this quickly?" And I read that, I was like, I didn't. It's just following the same conventions as everything else. Like, you know, oh, the menu's probably over here. Oh, you probably put things in like that. Oh, it probably works like that. Oh, well, there you go. It works.
Substance designer for me. I didn't watch anything. I just started making even Unreal Engine 4. The first one I did was just material, like the brick shader that I made. I made it in Unreal Engine as well, like the brick generator. And I had no idea. I was just thinking, okay, I know the nodes, how to access the nodes. I tried all sorts of combinations to get the, the search bar, and it was just tab, I think, or a space bar. And once that is done, I searched for the function, and instead of the node, like a math node, you'll have the math function names like add node, multiply node. If that's all I needed, and I started going with that. And I think it took me 2 hours to make the full shader, but I did it. It was amazing.
It's just I look at the people learning geometry nodes really fast, and then I look at the channels, especially the channels who have historically done Houdini, and then they go and they do like Intagma, or they go and they do these.
Nodes.
They're like, let's use geometry nodes, and then they like try to figure out like how to do the stuff that they would do in Houdini and geometry nodes, and they just come out with this like, crazy sick stuff. And it's pretty wild, but I mean the technology just translates.
The video comments of Intagma, dude, God, people hating Blender.
They're hating Blender,
yeah.
I don't know whether to delete those comments. Everyone gets them. It's like, why are you doing this in Blender? Why don't you just open up Program X? And I'm just like, you know what? If you were going to do it in Program X, why are you looking at my channel?
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's my reaction.
Like, yeah, I'm seeing people on Twitter that are just like complaining about the Blender community, and my experience with this community has been generally really positive. It's been awesome, but you do get the fanboys out there that they don't want to learn anything else, and like Blender is their little baby, and like that's it. And this has existed forever. I mean, I remember like the Lightwave community was very guarded about Lightwave when Maya started coming in and encroaching, and everybody wants they don't want to feel threatened. They don't want to have to learn new software. They're comfortable in their workflow. They don't want their whole career upended. But when you get some people like watching the video going, well, why don't you just use this? It's like, because I had this open and I used this to do this and it worked. You can use Microsoft Paint and do a painting, like if you know what you're doing. Like it doesn't matter.
Jim will paint it. That's what he uses.
Amazing. Okay. It doesn't matter. Like I think I responded to somebody and I was just like, you know what? I'm at the point now where I'm so software agnostic that like whatever software I left open the night before, that's what I'm just gonna jump into and use and do this thing for that. Like because I'm like I just don't even care anymore. I'm like whatever. Like you just get to that point where you're like, all right, I know how to do it in this, I know how to do it in this, I know how to do it in this. I'm just gonna do it because it's open.
One of my children earlier was watching a Minecraft video, and I think the guy it was just a obviously a blob originally, and it turned into an X-wing. And yeah, it was a good representation of an X-wing. I wonder if in the comments of that video, someone's going, "Why don't you just go and open Blender?" It's
Oh,
the
I'm
same
sure
sort
of it.
thing.
Yeah.
What?
Why'd you do it in Minecraft?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh,
It's like
God.
people just have to they have to like fight for relevancy because they feel
Oh,
like
man.
they're so like
Yeah.
they have no relevance in life and they have to like go and project their crap out into the world. And it's just like if you just think about why you're making that comment for just a split second, you realize like I'm sure this person already thought of the crap I'm gonna say, but I'm gonna be Captain Obvious and just type this out anyway. It's like,
Yeah,
alright,
I-
Reported
whatever.
for Judy.
I'm not
show,
res-
show the world.
I'm not responding to those comments like anymore. But
I
like,
know.
I get some, and
Yeah.
sometimes they delete them as well. Like I'll keep track of them. Oh, there was one on the Unreal one where someone was like, I completely disagree with what you said about this at this, and all that. And he made some snarky comment about like another game engine. Like he started an argument like no one asked about like game engines, and I'm not going to say which ones they were. But then someone else comes along and says like just no, as like a response to his comment, and then he deletes his original comment. And I'm like, well, if I responded, it would have started like this whole flame war with them, and I'm just like, it's not worth it. But I look at comments like that,
I know.
and like when the people say, oh, like you should not do things like this, don't do things like this. Oh my god, you're so annoying. Oh, why are you doing this? And I'm just sitting there like, listen here, you little you came to my channel, you clicked on this video. This is my world. You go
My
make your
world,
own
my
channel. You go and
household.
do it your own way.
Why you little?
Yeah.
And then you look at like their they could just be trolls using a different channel, a channel that they just used for trolling, and they could
Yeah.
like, but chances are these people have never worked a day in the industry because I mean you do that in an office and people are just like, no, we're not working with you anymore.
Yeah.
Bye.
That's right. That's right.
Nobody wants to work with that.
I mean,
Like,
imagine
yeah.
it's like if you're a teacher in a class and if any student comes to you like, how dare you? Like, teacher, just get out.
It usually
Yeah, you're
doesn't
just like, "Get out."
happen in a personal situation though. It
Yeah.
happens because people are behind this magical shield of the internet, and
Yeah.
everybody becomes a keyboard warrior at that point.
I have had people that they do have a somewhat professional presence out there, and they think they're the they're just the gods of everything. And you look at their stuff like, yeah, you're okay, you're pretty good, but like, and then they would comment on my stuff, and I'm like, you do realize like you have your name attached to this, and other professionals are looking at this, and like nobody wants to work with that. No one wants to work with that troll. Nobody wants to work with that person who does that. So you're just showing the world that you're trash. Like you really are. It's hilarious. Like I kind of laugh at these people because I'm like, you're killing yourself professionally here. Like the industry's pretty small. You don't want to go and like be known as the person who's going to stab someone in the back. Like there's that's like the number one way of never getting a call back.
I go check other video comments as well, just because I just want to know what other people think, and I find the same people who has this hate comments and other channels appearing here as well. I'll be like, okay,
yeah.
I know this guy, something
Mhm.
like that. And oh, when it comes to my case, I didn't get any hate comments, but then people starts pointing out like, if you are a good teacher, then you should not assume people should know like this so and so thing. And I was like, maybe I didn't reply to that, but then he watched the new video and he was like, okay, this is a lot better than the previous. And so I was like, okay, thank you.
Cool. I mean, he
Yeah.
came back and he redeemed himself, and that was cool. Like that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was the first YouTube video, and he was like saying, okay, you are just assuming we went to school and I didn't go to school. Not many 3D artists go to school. I was like, yeah, I'm sorry. I don't know what to reply. So I waited for 10 minutes and then he watched the new video, the Vectorman series. He was like, okay, this is a lot better than the previous one. I was like,
That's awesome.
Well, he's paying
Yeah, so
attention, and I think you want that sort of commenter, someone who pays attention and notices when
Yeah.
you take on board stuff. Commenters like that, I tend to give the benefit of the doubt, especially if they've taken the time, right? What I can't stand is when someone says, it didn't work for me, I don't understand this, how did you do blah, blah, blah. And then if I've got the time, I'll review my video and I'll say, but I answered that and I got the timestamp. So I'll put the timestamp in a reply. And usually the timestamp's around 2 minutes. I'm saying, okay, that's the tell. You couldn't be bothered to watch 2 minutes into my video before you commented. And that's why you don't know. And, I just wish I had that Yoda gif that sort of goes, this is why you fail. I'd
Yeah.
use that all the time.
Oh wait, that reminded
Exactly.
me. I put a picture in
Jack,
this
It's
server
why you fail.
a little while back because I started linking to my own comments like as responses, because like we get so used to answering the same questions over and over again. But there was one about the same video about, why'd you do it this way? And I was like, defer to this comment over here, and then you just like link the comment so they go through. And it's like it's a little bit sassy because it's like, look, you're not original, you're not smart, read over here. Like if you couldn't bother to read the comments or watch the video, and that original comment had a timestamp where I already answered the question anyway, so that's 2 people that didn't even watch the video. It's just like,
Yeah.
these frustrations.
Yeah.
Yeah, and at the same time, I don't want to caught the what's known as the Streisand effect. Do you know what that is?
Yeah. When you mention something and then everyone becomes aware of it when you didn't want them to know about it in the first place.
Yeah,
Yes,
and
yeah.
usually it happens with comments, and that's why you ignore trolls, because as soon as you answer to them, they're like, "Oh, he paid attention. I'm going to troll even more." You know,
Yep.
that's, or you say, "Don't do the thing." Everyone's like, "I'm going to do the thing," and that's just what happens in comments now.
Yeah, I've just been banning and blocking. That's all. Like if it's legitimate, I'll be like, all right, here, I'll answer this and help them out. And usually they come back and like, oh man, I'm sorry, I didn't see it that way, or I read that wrong. Sometimes you just get these like, I mean, there's been 1 or 2 people that have just been complete like head cases. I mean, seriously, like I think they have mental issues, and I'm like, I just don't want them anywhere near my channel. Bye bye. Like,
Yeah.
get out of my life. Stay away.
Yeah.
I will say that, so we're coming up to the 100k now. It's 93.6 out of all those people, those subscribers, and obviously there'll be lots of viewers that didn't subscribe. I've only had about maybe 5 to 10 genuinely hateful people, I think, roughly, and probably a couple or a few unhinged people. And by unhinged, I had someone that left some sassy comments once, and I think I responded to one. And then, like, they went off and did a Curtis Holt appreciation stream where they just talked about domestic violence while playing Call of Duty or something. Yeah, and then the other one was like the kind of death threat-ish weird email, like, you know, about that.
Yeah.
So there's a few genuinely mentally freaking unhinged people, but and then there's like, you know, like 5 to 10 hateful ones, and that's it. So relatively speaking, it's a pretty good audience. Yeah.
It's a good audience. Yeah.
It's the audience that you nurture, you know. You sort of nurture the feedback that you want, and they sort of they come back, and you know, you pay attention to the people who are, you know, polite or thankful or constructive, and you sometimes get some really good interactions with them. And then when people see that going on in the comments, I sort of like, maybe I'm being idealistic and a bit naive, but like I tend to think that you caught that kind of audience, and you sort of generate more of that audience to sort of come through and say, okay, this is how this guy's interacting or this person is interacting. And I want to be part of that conversation.
Exactly. You know, you just want to, I mean, just spread help, spread joy, spread fun, spread life. Like, there's no reason to go out
there's
and
too much
spread
crap
hate.
in the world.
There's so much. Like, we have enough problems, even just like biologically, we have enough problems. Like, just to add to that by just being a jerk, it just doesn't make any sense. You're not helping the world, you're making it a worse place. So just go help people, lift someone up. It's amazing. When you lift somebody else up, you feel really good about yourself. So it's kind of a win-win thing. So even if you start out helping people just because it feels good in a selfish motive for yourself, you're going to end up being altruistic anyway, because you're going to realize it's just a better way to exist.
Yeah, you're not going to be here forever, right? So
you're not.
That might be a bit of a downer, but but like other
it's true, you're not.
there are quite a few creators that feel hyper competitive, and I'm like, okay, so what, you're doing everything for yourself realistically? Like, maybe you're a bit of a closet narcissist, but like, you're not going to be here forever. When you're gone, what's it going to matter? Like, how you feel about what you did. So why don't you spend just a bit of time helping other people grow, so you can actually make some kind of improvement? Tend to the garden, if you want to think about it like that, you know.
That's what it is.
Other creators of plants, make everything look nice. Don't just, you know, sit by yourself and try and make yourself feel good all the time.
Exactly.
You know.
Cross-pollination.
Yeah, cross-pollination, I suppose. Nice.
Cross-pollination.
Yeah. Which sort of ties into what we've been talking about, because like I see this in the whole software realm. Like, we were talking about interfaces and how they're all kind of becoming, I don't want to call them samey, but you know what I mean. You know, like if you've got a video editing or non-linear video thing, this is where you put your timeline, this is where you put your bin, this is where you put your monitor, and then everything that becomes a VSE just follows on with that. The cross-pollination thing, I remember 10, 15 years ago, like you said, Kev, with the whole Lightwave Maya thing. I remember everything was really closely guarded, and
Yes.
programs would come out, and as a point of difference, they'd say, our interface is more intuitive than their interface, so use our thing, buy our product. And then other interfaces cottoned on, and they went, well, if that's working for people, like, remember Photoshop was the standard, so everything aped Photoshop. People start to do that. But now with this whole cross-pollination thing, Blender has come into the fray. I remember 2.5, was that the version that they got the really big facelift?
I think it was. That's when they went from the bottom
From the
bar
bottom
up to the
yeah.
I think it was two.
Oh, and the dynamic
2.5.
windows and everything. Yeah, and everyone says, "Oh, now this is looking like Maya." I said, "Well, that's a good thing. That's a compliment." Yeah, it's like it means that everyone was talking about how Blender was not intuitive, and it had a really steep learning curve, and they couldn't get past the interface. So they changed the interface, and now Blender is informing how other programs look and feel. And in general, we sort of like you said, Kev, you're jumping from program to program to program. I'm jumping from After Effects to Blender to DaVinci Resolve, and as much as the shortcut keys change, the interface also changes, but like you have a sort of set pattern and this memory of how a program should be split up and work. But I think it's only evolved that way because so many people are using so many different apps that they inform each other, And then in that whole holistic, hippy-dippy kind of way, we inform each other. Yeah, let's all hold hands and sing Kumbaya.
Speaking of hopping between programs, Curtis, you might have this particular issue. So you spent like a day or two in a game engine. You come back to Blender and you cannot orbit. You cannot move around your scene.
Yeah. God, I hate it.
Yep.
Yeah, I wish I could like hold down the right mouse button and just use WASD and whiz round. But
yeah, I used to have to stop myself and go, like, as I kept making mistakes, I was like, okay, just stop. Like, just think about what the actual buttons are and like make that the new muscle memory again. Because like you say, you have to kind of like swap between control sets in your mind. Tricky.
That's the only issue. Like when I'm making videos and I'm always I realize that my animation timeline is always running in Blender. And the reason is because in Houdini, when you want to orbit, one of the biggest things, you hold down spacebar and you orbit. Well, spacebar in Blender does something different. And why is this not working? And I realized, the timeline's running because I went for spacebar. It's muscle memory stuff that gets in the way.
It trips me up in Grease Pencil with that when the timeline's playing. And I notice it. I'm like, I better stop that. And I draw something. And then I'm like, why am I on frame 200 and something? I better go back to frame 1. I'm like, where are all my drawings? Because, because
you were drawing across the whole spectrum.
Across like 100 keyframes. And I'm like,
that's gotta be insane.
Talking about the interfaces and stuff, do you know how spoiled we are with Blender's subdivided window system? Like, because it's so much freedom. And then when you go to something that's kind of more limited, no matter what it is, Premiere's pretty good because you can kind of like divide up all the windows. But like Godot, I think they're working on it, but you can only have like a certain type of layout. They had like presets and stuff, and you're like, it's okay, but you're just so used to dragging out as much as you like in every single way that you like. And I think Blender was really ahead of the curve with that one.
It's beautiful. It's nice, especially if you're on one monitor. It's so nice.
I was just gonna say, like, the splitting got way better because before you have to have those two corners aligned to shift it. Now it's not. It'll just cut through it. It's amazing.
That was a real bugbear. Like you'd inadvertently drag like a header bar up at the bottom. You're like, why can't I move this window across?
Yep.
Just a little.
Yep.
In several versions ago, when they'd add something like the VSE, for instance, it was very counterintuitive. It had its own shortcut keys, which had nothing to do with the Blender shortcut keys or shortcut keys that you would have used in another nonlinear editing suite like Premiere. Right?
Yeah.
And that became a real pain. But the further they go on and the further they add features, I've noticed that they've really gotten this amazing synergy. I speak from experience with Grease Pencil, for instance, where you can still use Blender shortcut keys, but there are also shortcuts that make sense if you're coming from Photoshop or Clip Studio Pro or Paint. in like how you increase or decrease brushes, how you change from pencil to eraser, that sort of stuff. I've been noticing really subtle iterations and changes that definitely take and borrow from other programs, because they go, well, this is going to be this kind of drawing tool, and so we really have to address these issues.
You're right. The only other one that I know that does that is Houdini. Whenever Side Effects has an idea or they take a white paper, they take that and they build it into Houdini, so it becomes a native feeling part of that interface. The worst offender was 3D Studio Max, because they would just like kludge all these plugins together. They would just buy plugins and slap it on and call relabel it as Autodesk, and like it would be that. And Maya started doing that when Autodesk purchased Maya. It just feels like when they brought in like I think Mash and then Phoenix tools or whatever, like all these other tools, and they don't feel like part of the actual program anymore. It's like you're going into a different interface with different rules, a different world. It's like, the nice thing with the Blender devs is they bring it in, or Side Effects brings it in and it makes it native, so you feel like it's just part of the program.
I like how there are Blender add-ons, and what I like about that sort of system, I got used to it. It's not native, but it's something that sits on top of what Blender is capable of. And then people are designing their own interfaces that are very intuitive. They're saying, okay, this tool will pop out in this window, and here are the things that you can use, the tools that you can use to facilitate whatever the add-on does. We were talking about the asset manager. I haven't played around with that yet, but it sort of reminds me of something like, KitOps or other asset manager add-ons that have a really good library system. And now that we're going to have a native asset manager, I think I know the videos that you were talking about earlier, Curtis, where people would like drag and drop textures or materials onto objects. That is amazing to me. It's sort of like, instead of having to go down the material and say assign this to that and blah blah blah, it's like drag and drop. What? This is a huge time saver.
And then exporting them or appending them should be like asset browser. Like, it's very easy. Like, it's really intuitive. I really like that.
It will open the way for, I think, some really cool products as well.
To be honest, like you can have a bunch of node groups and keep everything inside the asset browser as well as materials. So if you're making a material pack, asset browser is going to be so helpful because of all the icons and everything. It's going to be...
But one thing that I am interested in is there's a miscellaneous category for the asset library, and like I haven't looked into this properly yet, but it would be cool if you could import like text editor objects. I don't know if you can, maybe you already can, I just haven't tried. But I mean, from a coder perspective, because I have the Easy BPY like as a kind of module, but I have other modules that I've been making for like Biogen and stuff, things for like spatial functions, randomization, and now geometry nodes. And I'm like, wouldn't it be cool for me, maybe not even for anyone else, but where I could just have those scripts accessible in the library and I can just drag them into my file, boop, so I can use those modules. So I don't have to go like installing them on every like version of Blender. They're just like a content in the library. I can just drag them in when I need them for the file.
That would be cool. I totally get the materials thing, because I kind of built the comic shaders on the basis that, okay, the best way to package these is as a blend file with some node tree groups. You import your groups, and then you can add them to whatever material you want. And I'd love to have a function where you can just have, I don't know, like a text file or even node groups that you've had as a browsable thing where you can drag and drop them and sort of add them to things. That could also change how we apply scripts and stuff like that. Because if there's an easier way to do it via an asset browser, then we change the system. Well, we change our current systems that work with what's existing to the new system, which could be easier to handle.
That would be cool.
So hold on, I have a question that I don't know if any of you have the answer to this, but if you have like a library file, because you can access like external blend files in the asset manager, because in the user preferences you can make references to them. So if you had because I haven't tried this, if you had a series of materials like my modular metals that use the same node groups inside, then if you brought one in and then brought a different one in, does it duplicate all the node groups, or does it link
It
them
does.
together? Right.
Okay.
It duplicates, and that's really annoying because I tend to do a lot of cleanup on my Blender file, and I know that I'm pretty sure there's a script out there which takes away duplicate materials. You know, when I've imported several assets that access the same material, and then you just got metal 1, metal 100, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna have to go into my blend file. I'm gonna select all of these, and the easiest way to do it is to just relink to the original material one by one, and then do a cleanup.
I can write a fixed script for it. It'll just be like, okay, well, whatever material node groups you have that have like a suffix of like dot whatever, just replace it with the original one. And that'll just be one loop, because you just loop through every single material like node tree group there is, and then look at every single node in that. And if that node has a suffix like that, then just replace it with the original. So that will just be one loop. But then again, that would be like, that could be another script that you could import from the asset kind of browser.
It could be dangerous though, couldn't it? You might have two models that both have metal as the material name, and you might not want to replace it. I think I've not used the proxy system in Blender too often, but I think that's what it's basically designed for. So you would have a master list of materials, and you're never ever using or creating a material separate from that master list, and you're always importing that proxy, and then you wouldn't have the metal 001, etc.
Issues.
But I
think that
there are a lot of issues with it though as well. If you don't do it right, you can destroy a blend file very quickly.
That's exactly what production workflows are, right? Like they only link and use proxies.
When you're using a proxy, for instance, when you just import it, it's in the same place. You can't edit it. You can't do anything with it. So you have to make the object, like the container object, local to that file. But if at any point you accidentally make something else local, like the mesh data or the material data, like we're alluding to here, that I don't think there's an easy way of going, apart from undo, of going, oh no, I didn't want to do that. Relink it back to the original thing. I don't think you can do that very easily, not without editing the RNA paths, which goes whoosh over my head.
Anyway, guys, I gotta go now.
Oh, okay.
Bye bye.
Adios.
Well, maybe we should end it then, because I'll go for my shower.
Hey, shower time.
Yeah, woo!
Shower
this
time.
Is the traditional. Yeah.
I set my week by Curtis's shower time.
Yeah.
It's like, Curtis shower time, end of the week.
My shower time is such a pivotal part. We're going to have like Blender users start building up stone monuments to detect the Curtis shower solstice. Like, you know, kind of...
That's right. It's gonna be... We're going to put it up at the Griffith Observatory. There's going to be a statue of Curtis with the solstice, the shower solstice every week.
Fantastic.
It's going to be great.
Your logo sort of works as a shower knot. Like you could have this as the shower head, just with a lot of holes in it.
Oh yeah. Actually, I quite like the idea of there just being like a kind of rectangular slot with where a waterfall comes out. That's kind of funky.
They're nice.
Sort of like a Dyson Airblade but for water.
Yeah.
Ooh, Dyson Airblade.
I like that. Have you ever been in a hotel where they've got like, you know, kind of both types of shower? Like they got like the top one which rains, you know, and the other. I really like that.
I've never been on one of those.
They're pretty cool. You know, I digress. That's probably end this
Got
now.
a quick question. Which one do I start with?
Oh, go on, Kev.
Oh no, you didn't.
I did.
Yeah, no. That's awesome. Curtis, have you started them yet?
Not yet. I need to. I'm really close to finishing originals now. So when I finish that,
I would say this: know that when you go into Out of the Shadows, you need to suspend disbelief. And I won't say why, but just know that I'm telling you suspend disbelief because it totally helps and makes sense, and everything will be awesome. Okay, so you'll know what I'm talking about when I say suspend disbelief. Yeah, you'll know what I'm talking about when I say that, and after that, the story is awesome, and you say, oh wow, that totally makes sense and it fits. I would say start with I started the one that wrote me in was River of Pain, because it's the story of what happens to Hadley's Hope on LV-426, right? So the original
Marines arrive,
this is right before the Marines arrive. This is like from like when Burke sends the message saying, you know, hey, go check this out. Here are the coordinates. and to the time when when Gorman says we lost contact with the colony, or whoever says that, Burke says that, like that's the story of what happens to the colony, and it's really good. Like the writing is okay. I think he's written better stuff, but the writing's okay, but the story is really cool. It's gritty and it's freaky, and it brings you back into Cameron's world, which is really cool. Then Out of the Shadows and the sequel to Out of the Shadows, Sea of Sorrow. Those two are really were really good because they paint they expand the possibilities of the whole franchise, and they introduce something that's really 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 interesting into the story loop, and it's really cool and it's freaky. So those two, because it happens on a totally different system, which is really cool. So those two are really good. And then I read Echo, which is they claim it's a young adult novel, but it was really good, and I thought it was very clever. And then probably the coolest one that I'd read was Phalanx, Phalanx. That was by Scott Siegler. That one was the best take and the freshest take on an alien story ever. They didn't even need Alien to be a part of it for it to be a great story, but the fact that it is, and then the reveal at the end is really, 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 really cool. And I was just like, this is like it's like Hunger Games meets 300, and it meets Lord of the Flies. It's just really good. I was blown away. That story in itself was one of the best. I would say one of the definitely like just phenomenal.
We hope you enjoyed this time at the BlenderNest Book Club.
Sorry, I just got so into it. I was like, ah.
I want to see Kev binge do sort of like a meat beast, but on a xenomorph. That's my request.
You'll see my next video, my very next video coming out. You'll see.
Ooh. I suppose to add to the book club then, just before I actually disappear, the originals book's really interesting. I read a bit about siblings, which is super interesting. And how younger siblings are statistically more likely to be creative or kind of acknowledged as creative, and especially in the case of comedians, for some reason, that successful comedians are much more likely to be younger siblings. And there's a few reasons for it. Number one is that for the first child, parents have no idea what they're doing, and so they're much more careful with what the child can or can't do. So they're generally stricter or more, confined about that.
Oh yeah.
And but so when it comes to the next child, they kind of know the limits and what is okay, which is generally more relaxed than the first child, should we say. So that's one thing. But the second point is that younger children need to find different ways to stand out because they can't compete with the older siblings in traditional categories. So that encourages them to look outside the box, and one way to do that is through comedy. So it's just been statistically more likely for some reason, well, that being one of them, that happens. But it also means that younger children tend to, again, statistically not, it's a general statement, tend to be a bit more or more acknowledged as creative.
I'm definitely bucking that trend. I am the oldest, I'm the most creative, and I'm as funny as okay, that either gets bleeped or
But me too.
Do we have
I'm the older one? My brother's a coder.
All right, yeah. We have an extra variable here, Paul. You are Australian, so this messes everything up.
Okay. So I see the upside down
on
thing.
his head?
Got it. Okay.
Yes, everything is upside down on your side of the world.
Yeah, I like it. It's interesting.
Really fun. I want to go there. I want to go to Australia. It looks so much fun. And the people, everyone I always meet from Australia, not to like typecast Australians as being really cool on a whole, but I have yet to meet a jerk Australian. Like I know they exist, but every Australian I've met has been really awesome. Like you got like I don't know why, it's just friendly.
I just want to ask one question. I'm pretty sure I got the word. Oh, do you call it a ute? The pickup trucks, Paul?
Yes.
Utility vehicle.
Yeah. Have you ever had one before?
No.
Oh, damn it. Okay.
You see them, they're a tradesman's vehicle. It's a utility vehicle, so we just call it the ute. We shorten everything.
That's cool. I like that.
Yeah.
But like the traditional ones have like some cool kind of style to them. Like they're not like regular pickups. They're kind of a bit more, I don't know, like slanted almost. I don't know how to describe it, but
oh yeah, there's a long tradition of it, and like you can get these very almost muscle car utes now. You know, it's crazy. Kev, you must have seen them driving around LA. I mean, there's really massive muscle cars that you almost need a step ladder to get into.
The lifted pickup trucks, like the F
maybe
F350s.
So and then they just got a pickup tray on the back, but they look really sexy.
No, these are the ones. These are like the giant lifted pickup trucks that are just like they put these like lift kits on them with these like 72-inch tires or something, and then it's just like monster trucks. It's dumb because they up their center of gravity, they flip over easily, they waste gas, and they're just like annoying. But you know, they were bigger like 10 years ago here.
Well, those drivers are definitely compensating for something. I should probably throw a ute into current project. I'm gonna just send a note to Wes and say, how come there isn't a ute on the Eat Sheep farm? It needs to be there.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
I'll even put Curtis's name on the side.
I'm gonna have to end. Nice. I'm gonna have to end it. All right. So 3, 2, 1.